Hello, this will be part 9 in this series, Science of the Symbols, and again with a focus on Athanasius Kircher. Was a scholar, famous Jesuit, prolific writer, illustrator, and we've been again focusing on this illustration here. And in this episode, we'll be try to be quicker, but we'll be looking at the eye symbols. But again, how especially this illustration, all of them from this very important period, 1500s, 1600s, early 1700s. These Hermeticists, Rosicrucians, um, Theosophists, and well, one of the things linking them is not only they're very scholarly, but they're basically all geometers and metricians as well. But so just a few things to note on this image as well. So before we go into the eye, now for instance, you see the two wings. One's very dark, one's very light. And so on this side, we can see how this figure, even by the shadows, he's illuminated and, let's say like bathed in daylight under the light wing, but under the dark wing, we see it's like, so you could say sort of there's this night and day aspect going on there. Again, we'll go into some more in future episodes, but for instance, this meandering river or the serpentine, this river, but for the moment, this will be on the eye symbol. Now, I've already shown this one, but well, there's a lot of stuff in here. Now, for instance, what we have is a zodiac, the 12 signs of the zodiac. We have a zodiac there, and these will be recurring themes, and we also have zodiac symbols here as well. But the key feature is this part here, and the eye, and how the eye is so important in these and crosses many different aspects. So now it's become a meme. One thing that Hollywood and the music industry is really good at is making profits and destroying things and turning them into something silly. And speaking of actors, there is there, but this is a way, like especially now, if you do this, you're guaranteed to get hits. Now that's the big thing, getting and being well, so you just listen to the interviews with these people. Now they're probably being directed behind the scenes, but these people themselves, let's just be frank, they're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But and so this eye symbolism has now been lost and perverted in many ways. So we see the eye now, that's there. I just enlarged it. Now, if we also look over here, what we see is again an eye symbol. Just enlarged it here. Now, an interesting point is, what are these 7 signs around the outside? Well, they're astronomical, but they're also alchemical, and they're also related to the gods. But so, for instance, we have Sun, Earth, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter symbols, which are alchemical. Still, the symbols for those elements still correspond to these, but they're also connected to gods. For instance, Mars is the god of war. He's also related to iron. Venus / Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Jupiter / Zeus, the god of the sky. And these aspects. Now we'll come to those in the future, but so just to see the eyes there. Now on this drawing here, and we see that as well. It's a bit hard to make out, but we see these same 7 symbols as well, which will connect there, but this will be future episodes. But sticking with the eye, and so famous the American dollar bill, which has the the truncated, the unfinished pyramid with the eye bathed in sunbeams coming off them. That's the Eye of Providence. This is the original version of that of the seal there. But again, the all-seeing eye, 13 steps, which is another important feature as well. So that's the Eye of Providence, but it's also the all-seeing eye of God, a symbol of God watching over humanity, a protective symbol, not an evil symbol. That's the origin of it. So the Eye of Providence, or the all-seeing eye, basically representing the eye of God looking out down over humanity, going back a long, long time. But you also find it in, for instance, most famously, that's why, anything Mason's got to be, terrible, evil, diabolical, whatever. But these symbols are embedded in uh, it's Christian symbols, but also much older. We'll have a look at that. But so again, we see the eyes being this standard feature in Masons as well. But for instance, I think it might be called San Salvator's in Belgium. But again, what we have is the eye being represented. So from that angle, it's probably actually better from that angle, but I've just enlarged it there. And Aachen Cathedral in, I think pretty sure, yeah, Germany, and the St. Mary Cathedral in Philadelphia. That I'm not sure, but in Ohio as well. So again, the eye bathed in, with radiating sunbeams, the all-seeing eye looking down. Now these are some other works by Kircher, and again, so we have the Kundalini, and we have these planetary symbols. Again, this figure is covered in the 12 signs of the zodiac. We see the zodiac symbols there. The sun god Apollo and the moon god Artemis, also called Diana. But at the top of the caduceus, we have the all-seeing eye, and we also have in ratio, which is an important theme that should be repeated as we go more. Again, the all-seeing eye, and also over here, well, in the center, so the eye is the sunbeams, but inside the triangle. We also have an eye represented there. So just to highlight now, they're interesting because, okay, nerve eye. So Dura and these other guys were very interested in optics. So again, there's this, what you'd think didn't appear to much later. They were looking into science and perspective and the all-seeing eye, and that's why. So when these pictures, especially, were done at a time where people were much more symbolic, literate in symbols, and now it has to be in a text form with the nice diagrams, but they worked differently back then, and this symbolism was an important feature. So once you're literate in the symbols, you can read the story that's being told here in much the same way. If you're literate in symbols of a church, you can walk around and you can see, they're telling a story, and it's just done in a different format to what we have now. Another important feature about Kircher was that he was an Egyptologist before Egyptology was really a thing, at least in Europe. And so, for instance, he wrote at least one book about it. But what do we have? A drawing of Isis holding the pail and the sistrum. I did a video because these handbags, it sort of goes, you'll find them cross cultures, but even like he describes it. So the irrigation, he even describes it as irrigation and fertility, and those societies which have that this symbol tended to be civilizations which had irrigation and farming as well. But I'll try to remember to put the link in that description because that's a cool point. But also the sistrum, so Isis holding the sistrum, but also he did quite now his book. So we see the eye in there as well, so he was familiar with that. Now it said that hieroglyphs were not able to be read until the Rosetta Stone. Well, yeah, maybe, but maybe not. And especially if you look closer into Kircher and people from his periods, they were very, very interested in ancient history. The Renaissance and the Enlightenment was birthed from, in especially Western Europe, them rediscovering Roman Greek texts and then looking into ancient civilizations. This is a cover for a book commissioned by King Ferdinand, but Oedipus Egyptactius, or the pronunciation, but it's written by Kircher, and he did a lot of other stuff. But now we look, for instance, Horus, Osiris, and Isis, and the story or the connection, because we have the wedge-at eye, as it's called, or the Eye of Horus. And we can also find that back in Greco Roman times. Now, even the symbols around here are very astronomical as well. So this particular mosaic and other similar, it's basically like a Mason tracing board in a lot of ways, going back a long, long time. But Isis, and we see Isis there, and him, of course, being very interested, writing on it. Another interesting aspect in regards to this wedge-at eye is Rind papyrus, which has Egyptian math and geometry on it, and it actually describes this eye and how Egyptians did their fractions, which is an important feature now. So the story of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, and very similar to basically, well, he got killed by Set, and then to bring him back to the underworld, Hathor, Isis, and Horus were involved in the Eye of Horus. So you can pause, and that's like a cool short description from Herodotus. You can of course read more on it. There's quite, yeah, but the eye having mythical but also mathematical, as we saw, connections. And also so another Kircher drawing, the universal music, which has the Doric and the Ionic scale, the musical modes there, but also the Sistrum and the Lyre, which even identifies as Egyptian. And so the Sistrum Egyptian again, and well, again, he's drawing Isis holding the Sistrum, and which is connection to Hathor and the Isis Osiris, and they rescued, as Jordan Peterson said, rescue your father from the underworld. Nice little link to this archetype there. I'll put the links in the description because I did a couple of videos on Hathor and Isis and the Sistrums and the columns in Egypt, but also the musical aspects of it. Well, they'll be in the description. And of course, what do we have? We have again the quadrivium, music and math coming together in these older societies. And so yeah, so the eye, Kircher, and well, yeah, these aspects of it as well. And we start because they'll lead to other things. So, for instance, the Sun, Earth, Moon, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter, and also the alchemical or the chemistry of them at the time, because each one of those symbols is a links to an element. So tin, copper, gold, silver, etc. And yeah, so yeah, this it also connects to the gods as well. So, for instance, that symbol there, the symbol for Mercury, is also the symbol for the god Mercury. So that's the caduceus, which is a bit elaborate there, but we see that's a symbol for Mercury in there, which also holds the other planetary symbols in there. So that's a confirmation of it. And yeah, okay. So the eye and connections there, nice one. So the Eye of Providence, or the all-seeing Eye of God, and even going back to Egyptian times, the Eye of Horus, because the Eye of Horus is also a symbol of power, of royalty, and of good health and good harvest. So the eye looks over you. Now, the evil eye is a thing, but that's not the evil eye. This is a benefit. The Eye of Horus is a beneficial eye. It's not the evil eye. This is not the evil eye. So even I've seen some pages here saying no, the evil eye is something else. And the eye, and for instance, still to this day, I think in Egypt they will paint a blue or a green eye, because this is also called the green eye, but it's an aquamarine type of greeny blue. They will still paint that on their cattle and even on their houses as a protection from evil. The eye protects from evil. The eye is not a thing of evil. Now, when you give someone the evil eye, okay, but yeah, from the ancient origins, it's not the evil eye. It's just not. And same with this Eye of Providence, but and the all-seeing Eye of God is especially when you see basically fundamentalist Christian bloggers saying these things. Well, it's not really. It's part of this going back. It's the Eye of God, Eye of Providence, and that's what these things are. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that. A lot more to come, because I'll be going into more astronomy, especially the zodiac and the connections to the 7 heavenly bodies and how they relate to gods and to chemistry, or as it was, we call it now, alchemy. And with that, hope you enjoyed and have a good one.